Has your car been totaled in a car accident and you still owe money on the vehicle? I'm going to give you 2 crucial steps to take to try to avoid financial disaster when you're in this type of situation. Hi, I'm Ted Spalding. I'm an Atlanta personal injury trial attorney. I've been practicing over 20 years now, and this is a common issue that I have with clients of mine, as well as people who are potential clients that call in and have had a wreck and have this situation. So let me start with the most crucial step. Now, this is one that you've got to do before you're in a car accident, and that is gap insurance. It is really the only foolproof way to ensure that you will not face a situation where you are paid out for the value of your vehicle, yet you still owe a third party, a bank, a individual that you've gotten a promissory note from, something of that nature on the vehicle. Gap insurance, massively important. What is it? How does it work? So gap insurance is just what it says. It's insurance that you purchase, and it fills the gap between what your settlement is on the value of your vehicle when it's totaled in a car wreck and what you still owe the bank or another financial institution. So gap insurance, it's something that you got to take out well before a car wreck. So you want to do this, and typically finance companies require it, but otherwise I see time and time again people do not have gap insurance. It is a pretty cheap product and really helpful. If you're buying a new vehicle or a couple of year old vehicle, you must have gap insurance, because you're talking probably tens of thousands of dollars in value that there might be a gap between once it's in a wreck and what its current condition is and what the law is going to say the value is and what you may owe this financial institution. So getting gap insurance, getting it early, right at the time you're purchasing the vehicle, is always the best step. How does it work? Well, what you do first is you settle with hopefully the at-fault party's insurance, or worst case, your insurance on the property damage. That is the total legal value of your vehicle. You're not allowed to get anything more, especially where I practice here in the state of Georgia, than what is the current market value of that vehicle a second before the wreck occurs. That's all you're owed. So once you've done that, you've gotten that settlement, then you look at what you're owed to third parties, which are your finance companies, any other individual promissory note, something like that, on the purchase of your vehicle. And the hope is there's no gap there. You've got exactly or more than what is owed to this third party. Oftentimes, however, that doesn't happen. So at that point, you take the money, and typically this is done even before it hits your hands. The money from the insurance company, the auto insurance, goes straight to the financier of the vehicle. Then you still owe. So you would have a gap, hopefully just a couple $1,000s. God forbid it might be $10,000 plus gap. That is still owed. You have now settled your case. You're not going to be able to get it from the at-fault party any longer. You got the maximum amount the law allows. Now you've got to go to another source, gap insurance. You submit a claim to your gap insurance and you say, look, I've got a gap. Here's all the paperwork. And then gap insurance, just like liability insurance or your auto insurance did, gap insurance should cover the remainder. So that's the other trick here is when you get gap insurance, you want to make sure you are getting plenty of gap insurance to cover $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in gap in value versus what you still owe on the vehicle. So make sure you got enough of it. If you don't, you still owe the financier the remainder, and they're not going to just waive it, write it off, and move on. So you would still owe them that money. So gap insurance is massively important. It is the step to take, but you got to do it before. Now, what happens if you have already been in a wreck? You're watching this video because you've already been in a wreck. You're terrified that you still owe. What do? That's where the next step comes in. And quite frankly, what you are doing is you're scrambling to try to minimize that gap as much as possible. Most likely, unfortunately, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to make it go away. But the hope is that you can narrow it down as much as possible. How do you do that? Well, pretty practical, empirical thing. You need to make sure you maximize the settlement of your case. So before you take an offer from liability or again, your property damage coverage, you want to make sure it is for the absolute top value for your vehicle. It's a negotiation. I've got some other videos, please watch, on how to handle property damage claims, what it means, how to try to negotiate and resolve a total loss. So check out my other videos as well. But the bottom line is you've got to do your research. You've got to understand that the first offer, maybe even the second offer from the insurance company, especially if it's liability, is not going to be the full value. They're pretty good at getting very, very close. But if we're talking a gap of $1,000, you should be able to make that up through negotiating. Now, if you got a $5,000 gap, you're likely not going to negotiate your way to a $5,000 recovery above their first offer. But if it's something below that, you've got a good shot. And at the very least, every dollar you get is a dollar saved. Remembering you're ultimately on the hook for what you owe to the finance company. It's really difficult. This happens all the time, and I absolutely hate it for clients. Gut-wrenching. You weren't at fault, yet now you've got this issue, and you're kind of almost double losing on this end. So negotiate really hard, get your estimates, hire an expert that can really get in there and say, no, this is the true value. Here are some sales in the industry, that sort of thing, that prove that you're off by several $1,000s on the value of this vehicle. Make sure you've got all your add-ons in there. If you've done anything to it, you've upgraded rims, sound system, any of that kind of stuff, this can add to the value. Make sure you got it all covered. This is all you can do if you don't have gap insurance. It's not the best scenario in the world, but you've got to try to minimize the damage to yourself. I hope this video has helped. You learned a little bit about gap insurance, why you need it. If you didn't do it this time, next time you purchase a vehicle, please get gap insurance if you've got financing on it. It is a must. You never know what's going to happen, and you don't know who's going to hit you. So you don't know how much insurance they have. You don't know what the value versus what you owe is going to be at the time, what the market is going to bear. So please protect yourself. And if you enjoyed this video, again, I've got plenty of other videos that hit on property damage issues all the way to personal injury, which is what I practice day in and day out. Please look at my channel, subscribe, watch some of the other videos. Thank you so much for watching.